Here's another word problem from solving right triangles using the basic trig ratios. This problem is a little bit more difficult compared to the other previously discussed questions. Let's see how to solve this problem. At the foot of a mountain, the elevation of its summit is found to be pi over 4. After ascending 1 mile up a slope of pi over 6 inclination, the elevation is found to be pi over 3. Find the height of the mountain. As always, we are going to need a properly drawn figure. The straight lines must be drawn as straight lines and they should not be drawn as curves. Let me go ahead and start drawing a small figure for this situation. As always, we are going to need a horizontal line and then we have a mountain. I'm not going to draw the complete mountain. Instead, I will draw a vertical line at the tallest point of the mountain. Assume that this is the tallest point of the mountain. So practically the mountain doesn't look like this. The mountain will look like this. But for mathematical reasons, I'm not going to draw these branches, and instead I will only show the tallest point of the mountain like that. And at the beginning, let's assume that the person is somewhere here. That means the foot of the mountain is somewhere here, like this. When he observes the mountain from this point, he can see that the elevation of its summit is found to be pi over 4. To show the elevation, I simply need to connect the top of the mountain and this point. When I connect those 2 points, that straight line should be pi over 4 inclined. Therefore, the angle right here is equal to pi over 4. After ascending 1 mile up a slope of pi over 6 inclination, now this person is climbing this mountain. He is climbing up on a slope of pi over 6 inclination. That means I need to draw that path. Let's assume that this is the path that this person follows. He follows 1 mile along that slope. So the distance right here is 1 mile. The inclination of that part is pi over 6. Therefore, this angle right here is equal to pi over 6. So the person's new position is right here. From that position, the angle of elevation is found to be pi over 3. That means if we connect that new position with the summit of the mountain, that straight line is going to be inclined to the horizontal direction by pi over 3. I'm going to need that horizontal line. Therefore, let me go ahead and draw this horizontal line like this. The angle right here is equal to pi over 3. That is the new inclination as seen from this point. We need to find the height of the mountain. The only distance given to us is this 1 mile. Let me assume that the height of the mountain is h. So let's go ahead and show the height. That height, we will assume that it's equal to h. Our task is to find this h right here. I drew a vertical line to show the tallest point of the mountain, and this is the horizontal line. Therefore, we know that the angle right here should be equal to 90 degrees, or in other words, pi over 2 radians. We have this angle as pi over 4. That means what should be the complete angle right here? That should also be equal to pi over 4. Therefore, this large right triangle is an isosceles right triangle. When you have 2 angles equal to one another, that triangle is called an isosceles triangle, which means this side should be equal to this side in length. Since I showed the height of the mountain as h, the distance between that starting point of the person and the starting point of that tallest point on the vertical line, that length should also be equal to h. Now we have to find h. Before finding h, we will need to find this little height. That is because if I complete the triangle right here, then it will be very helpful. Let's assume that the height shown right here is given by x. We will first find that x. How do you write an equation to find that x? We can look at the blue small triangle right here, and we can write down an equation for this angle pi over 6. We can write an equation for sine pi over 6. Sine pi over 6 should be equal to opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite is of length x and the hypotenuse is of length 1. Now from that we can quite easily find the value of x. We know that sine pi over 6 is equal to 1/2. That should be equal to x over 1, which means x is equal to 1/2. We are going to need that information. We will also find the length right here. That is the adjacent side of pi over 6 of this small triangle. Let me label that length as y. I'm going to need y as well. In order to find y, we can write down another equation for the pi over 6. We can write down cosine pi over 6. Cosine pi over 6 should be equal to the adjacent, which is this length, which was shown as y, divided by hypotenuse. Hypotenuse was shown as that, and it's equal to 1 mile. Equation becomes y over 1 on the right hand side. We know that cosine pi over 6 is equal to square root 3 over 2. That should be equal to y over 1, which means just y. We have both x and y found. Look at the triangle right here. That triangle is also a right triangle. We know that the angle right here should be 90 degrees. We are given the size of this angle right here, which is equal to pi over 3. If I write down an equation for pi over 3, basically an equation involving this side and this side, which is of course tangent pi over 3, we should be able to find the value of h. We cannot write down sine or cosine for that triangle, because in that case we will happen to find the length of the hypotenuse as well, which is unknown at the moment. Now, what can you say about the height right here? We know the complete height right here is equal to h. This little height is equal to x. Therefore, this height right here should be equal to h minus x. That is the length of the opposite side of this angle of that triangle. Similarly, what can you say about the length of this side? The length of that side should be equal to the complete length right here minus the length up to this point. That means this side should be equal to h minus y. Let me show that length also. I will write it somewhere here. That should be equal to h minus y. Now, if we write down an equation for this triangle right here as an equation involving tangent of that angle, then we get tangent pi over 3 should be equal to h minus x on the numerator, which is the opposite side, divided by h minus y on the denominator, which is the adjacent side. We know the value of tangent pi over 3. Tangent pi over 3 is equal to square root 3. We already found the values of x and y. Therefore, the numerator can be written as h minus x, which is equal to 1/2. The denominator is equal to h minus y is equal to square root 3 over 2. Now we need to solve that equation. Let me copy that equation and paste it somewhere else. Here is that equation. Let me write parentheses for the numerator and the denominator separately. And now I can multiply this denominator to the other side. Or in other words, I can multiply both sides by h minus square root 3 over 2. Then I get square root 3 times h minus square root 3 over 2 on the left hand side, and on the right hand side I only have h minus 1/2. Now I will distribute this square root 3 into each of these two terms inside the factor. When I do that, on the left hand side I get square root 3 times h minus square root 3 times square root 3 is equal to 3 halves equals h minus 1 half. Now I will need all the h values on left hand side and all the constants on the right hand side. Therefore I need to simply subtract h from both sides, and I need to add 3 halves to both sides. When I do that, I get square root 3 times h minus h on the left hand side, and then 3 halves minus 1 half on the right hand side. From the left hand side we can factor out h, and then inside the factor we will have square root 3 minus 1. On the right hand side, 3 halves minus 1 half is equal to 1. By dividing both sides by square root 3 minus 1, we get h equals 1 over square root 3 minus 1. This answer is in miles, and some instructors need you to rationalize the denominator. In order to rationalize the denominator, you have to multiply both top and bottom by the conjugate of square root 3 minus 1. The conjugate of that term is equal to square root 3 plus 1. Therefore, on the numerator, you will have square root 3 plus 1. And in the denominator, you have square root 3 minus 1 times square root 3 plus 1, which will be simplified to become 3 minus 1, which is equal to 2 miles. If anyone needs a little bit of help on this simplification step, please pay attention to the simplification of a minus b times a plus b. This combination will be simplified to become a squared minus b squared. Once you multiply both top and bottom of this term by square root 3 plus 1, you get this configuration in the denominator. Then you can easily simplify that, and you will see that your answer is finally going to be equal to this one. Alright, that's a complete solution of this word problem. Thank you so much.